everybody, Mike here with Delta Faucet. Today, I'm going to walk you through how to install a single-handle pull-down bathroom faucet. Now to start, let's take a look at your sink configuration. If you have a single hole in your countertop, then you will need a single-handle faucet. However, if you have a 3-hole, 4-inch configuration, you can still use that single-handle faucet. You'll just need to add the included base plate. Now I think it's a good idea to confirm that you have 4 inches between the centers of your 2 outside holes, so take a quick second to double-check that measurement. When installing a new faucet, we always recommend replacing your supply lines. Now it's important to make sure you're picking the correct size when you head to the home improvement store. So there's a couple of measurements that we want to make a note of. The first is the distance from the shutoffs to the bottom of the faucet inlets to make sure that it will be long enough. Second is the size of the connections. Now the top of the fitting that connects to the faucet is a 1/2-inch IPS fitting. However, the bottom fitting that connects to the shutoffs could be a 3/8 inch or a 1/2 inch, so confirm that measurement before making your purchase. Now today, we'll be installing the Kyra model, but this video will also work for a wide variety of different styles and finishes of Delta's single-handle pull-down bathroom faucets. All right, if you're ready, let's collect some tools and supplies we'll need to complete this installation. You will need 2 adjustable wrenches, some safety glasses, a Phillips head screwdriver, and I recommend a long Phillips head screwdriver because it makes it that much easier to work behind the sink, maybe some silicone, a flashlight for working behind your sink, a small bucket for when we flush some lines, and I think it's a good idea to grab a couple towels. Okay, once you've got all those tools and supplies gathered, let's jump on into the installation. All right, so the first step of this installation is preparing our faucet for setting it down into our countertop. Now, if you have a 3-hole, 4-inch configuration, this is where you'd be using that base plate. Now with the base plate, I want to line up the center hole of the base plate with the center hole of my countertop, like so. Once that's in place, I can take my faucet and gently lower it down through the hole, making sure my faucet comes in contact with the base plate. Now today, I'll be installing it on a single hole application, which means I'm going to be using this included plastic gasket. Now the gasket has 2 sides. One side's flat, that's going to come in contact with my countertop, and the other side has this little ridge on the top that's going to fit neatly into the bottom of the body of my faucet. So once you're ready, we're going to grab the sprayer hose, begin feeding it through the center of that gasket, up over my inlet tubes, being careful to make sure I get them all through the middle until the gasket comes up to the bottom of my faucet like that. With all this held together, I'm going to go ahead and start gently lowering my faucet through my countertop hole. As I do this, I want to pay attention to my inlet tubes, making sure I'm not damaging the tubes or the countertop. Then feeding it all the way down until it's sitting against my countertop. Now what I'm checking for here is making sure that it's generally in the position that I want, and also making sure that I'm not pinching that little plastic gasket at any point around the bottom of the faucet. Also, I want to point out that you'll notice I'm installing this faucet on a smooth countertop surface. Now, if your countertop at home that you're installing this faucet onto wasn't so smooth, I definitely recommend adding a small bead of silicone along the underside of the faucet here to ensure a nice watertight seal. Okay, with everything up here looking great, we can now move underneath the sink and start securing it into place. To secure your faucet to your countertop, we're going to be using a plastic gasket, a metal washer, followed by a mounting nut. Now this mounting nut, you'll notice, has 2 lock-in screws preloaded into it. We just want to make sure that those screws are sitting below the surface of the nut itself, because this will face the bottom of our countertop. Once you're ready, go ahead and grab your sprayer hose. We're going to first put on our plastic gasket, followed by our mounting washer, and then finally our mounting nut. Again, verifying the orientation to make sure that those screws are going to be facing down. Once everything looks good, we're going to push them up over my hose and then over both of my supplies, being careful to make sure I don't damage them at all the way up to the shank of my faucet, where I'll start threading on my mounting nut. It should thread easily. We want to make sure we're not cross-threading this, and I'll spin it all the way up to the top. Once I get it there, I'm going to just hand tighten it for now. And then I want to check final alignment to make sure I'm happy with the position of the faucet. And once you are, I'm going to go ahead and lock those locking screws into place with my Phillips head screwdriver. Tightening both of them down. And again, I don't want to over tighten these. I just want them snug enough to keep the faucet from moving around. Now we can connect our sprayer hose. Our sprayer hose is going to connect to the outlet tube coming out the bottom of the faucet. It's got this quick connect system. You may need to move your supply lines slightly off to the side to just give yourself enough room here. And the quick connect is going to push fully onto the bottom of the outlet tube, and I'm lining up the blue tabs on my quick connect with the blue tabs on the outlet tube. Once I push it all the way in, you'll hear a small click. I think it's a good idea to give it a slight pull down just to verify I have a good, strong connection. Now, if for some reason you ever need to remove this tube, all you have to do is squeeze the two blue clips on either side and then gently pull straight down. All right, we've secured our faucet into place, we've connected our sprayer hose, and now it's time to attach our hose weight. Now the hose weight you'll see is going to attach over the hose and then clamp into place with a screw on each side. You notice there's a cutout in the middle for the hose to go so it doesn't get pinched in any way. Now for this, I've gone ahead and removed one of the screws, which allows me to rotate the weight like so, and now I can attach it to my hose. Now the position of the weight is important. I want to make sure it's attached just above the bottom of my loop here on the side that's opposite of my quick connector. So again, just double checking. This side's my quick connector side, so I'm going to attach the hose weight right around this spot here. I'm going to rotate my hose weight to the side, fit the hose in the center there, and then clamp the two sides together. Once everything looks good and I've made sure that I'm not pinching anything, I'm going to take my screw, start threading it back in here, and then tighten up both sides. Okay, I've got that hose weight installed, and now I just want to double check to make sure that my sprayer line is going to be able to function without getting caught around my plumbing or my supply lines, and everything's looking great. Next, we're ready to start connecting our supply lines to our faucet. But before we do that, I think it's always a good idea to go ahead and flush your supply lines into a bucket for a few seconds just to make sure we're clearing out any debris that may have gotten in the line during installation, because that could cause a flow issue down the road. Once you've done that, we're going to go ahead and grab our supply lines and start connecting them to the bottom of the faucet. Now the fittings have a hot side and a cold side. And I know this is the hot side because it has this tag attached to it. So I've got my hot side supply line, bringing it up to the bottom of my hot fitting. I'm going to use my fingers to thread it onto the bottom of the fitting until it's snug. Once that's done, I'm going to use an adjustable wrench to hold the fitting itself. And then another wrench to tighten up the supply line. Another turn and a half, just enough to ensure a watertight seal without over tightening it. Okay, that side looks great. I'm going to do the same steps for my cold side. So now I can move on to installing my drain. We have other videos for that, so be sure to check those out, then come back here and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, we've made all of our plumbing connections underneath the sink and everything's looking great. So now I can move on to the final phase of this installation. First thing I want to check is to make sure I'm happy with the final position of my faucet, which is looking great. And then finally, we're going to go ahead and flush the faucet out to make sure we're removing any debris, similar to what we did with the supply lines. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and put a washcloth or a rag in the bottom of my sink to confirm that I'm not going to drop anything down the drain. Then I'm going to remove the aerator from the bottom of the spout. Now, since it's a pull-down faucet, I can pull the spout towards me to get a good access to the aerator itself. Now this is going to be removed with the aerator wrench. You'll see the aerator wrench has these little teeth on the top that correspond with the indents in the bottom of the aerator. Once you're ready, take the aerator wrench and use it to unscrew the aerator from the bottom of the spout. Okay, once it's loose, you can go ahead and pull it out with your fingers and then set it off to the side. Now, if you didn't see a little rubber gasket come out, that's totally fine. Not all models ship with one. However, I do want to confirm that it's not still stuck in the end of the spout. So take a quick peek, just to confirm everything looks nice and clear. Once that's done, we can replace our spout into our faucet, and we're about ready to run some water through our system. So to do this, I'm going to leave the supply stops underneath the sink in the off position. Then I'm going to turn my faucet into the full mix on position. Basically what this means is turning the faucet on and then moving the handle halfway between hot and cold. Once that's done, I'm going to move back underneath my sink and turn on both my supply stops and let water run through the system for about, say, like 30 seconds or so. Now, a little bit of a pro tip here is since we have the aerator out of the faucet, there could be a little bit of additional pressure coming through here, which might lead to some splashing around our sink area. So one thing I like to do is use that washcloth or that rag and just hold it around the end of my spout here when I'm running water through the system, which should help minimize that splashing. Once everything looks good, let's go ahead and flush our lines. Okay, we flushed our line, so now we can reinstall our aerator, and the reverse step's how we took it out. Again, pull the spout towards you, reinstall the aerator, and then use the wrench to gently screw it back into place. Okay, that about wraps things up. Now this little aerator wrench, we want to make sure we store it in a location that we can easily find it in the future if we ever need to remove our aerator for any reason. Also, one last step would be checking below our sink a last time to confirm we don't see any evidence of leaks that might need to be corrected. After that, you're all done. Hopefully this installation went well for you. And if you have any additional questions, be sure to remember you can always reach out to the Delta Faucet customer service team. They're more than happy to help.